We are live, Mark.
Hey, what's up, man? You called me. Hey, look.
In the nick of time, we got her here.
Yeah, man, she won.
I made it.
You won. You beat us. You were trailing behind us, and he came in at the. That was like a race.
My God, I was a little nervous there.
Nowhere and takes the lead. Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Police Off the Cuff After Hours. My name is Mark DeMayo. I'm your host, my co-host, my partner in all things law enforcement, the very handsome Bill Cannon. What's up, Bill?
Yo, what's going on? I'm excited. This should be a good show. Except I always freak out a little bit when someone isn't here exactly or early. But it's all right.
It all worked out.
Ed Mullen shows up 3 minutes or 5 minutes late lots of times, and I'm like, oh no.
Well, we made it. We made it. We have listen. We have a return guest tonight. Everybody knows him. He's a fan favorite here. He's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and he works with law enforcement on suicide prevention. Dr. Stephen Wakschal, return guest. How are you?
Good. Glad to be here.
And we have a special guest. This is near and dear to my heart. I don't know if you remember me. Do you?
I don't.
I used to work with your husband, Pete, in the
No
Queen's
way.
Task Force.
Oh, wow.
Mayo Sanchez.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow. Wow. See, I'm glad I got in touch with you guys.
Yeah, I'm happy. This is really. I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking a deep breath too right now.
That's awesome.
So this means a lot to me that you were coming on. I didn't know whether I should reach out to you beforehand. I didn't know whether you knew or not, but this is good for ratings right now. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Mary Ann DeLuco Maginnis.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm a little shaken up right now, actually. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. Look at that beautiful picture right there of you and your kids.
Yeah, but your kids. Let me take a shot at it, all right? Because you had kids before us.
Yes.
I'm gonna say your oldest is 30. The second one is 28, 26.
Oh God, I'm not that old.
No.
No. Yep.
Is that close to how old they are now?
Yeah, TJ. No, that's not. TJ's gonna be 25 next month. Johnny is 23, and Jolie's gonna be 20 in August.
Okay, so we kind of sort of had them at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Now that you mentioned that, we were talking about pictures before this, and I think you were pregnant with my wife at the same time when we went to that party.
Wow. And
I have those pictures, the two of you pregnant somewhere. I don't know where they are. And I was joking around before with Doctor. I said, because after the divorce, I don't know where half my stuff is. So
I got you.
I remember those. Yeah, you were both pregnant at the same time.
Wow. How old?
Hey, Mark, someone was commenting about your hair. I said, the hell with Mark's hair. I don't want to hear about that bullshit.
It looks good tonight, right?
When you were in task force, then you worked with someone I just met a few weeks ago, McPherson.
Yeah, maybe I did, but it's funny, when your husband got promoted to sergeant, I worked with Jock afterwards.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, Jock became my partner.
Love Jock.
You guys are like having a private conversation, but our audience doesn't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, it's going to all make sense right now.
Tell her story about what the purpose of her coming on the show was.
All right, so there you go. So listen, it was a nice intro. You don't want to just freaking crash land. So why don't you tell us your story?
Yeah.
Tell us what happened.
So it's not a good story that you obviously know. NYPD a few years ago had a crazy outburst of suicides, and I found every time I hear about it, it brings me back to that day, and I reached out to a really dear friend, Robert Ganley, Deputy Commissioner of the Police Department, and I said, you know what? Maybe if somebody actually heard my side, what suicide does to the family, maybe they'll think twice. So I actually went out and I started talking to different fraternal groups, and I reached out to you guys because it's still happening, and it's not okay. It's not okay to do this. It's a rash decision at a moment that really affects the entire family, forever. It forever affects them. And I don't know if you want me to tell you guys from the start.
Yes, please tell us whatever you want to tell us.
Okay, so in September 20th, 2001, nope, sorry, 2002. Normal day. It was my girlfriend's birthday, and we were taking her out for lunch. So I had taken the kids, the two boys and the baby, in the car seat, and we were going to school. I was bringing them to school, and she was going for the ride. Yep, there they are. And dropped them off. We decided we're going to take Val to lunch for her birthday. I came home, and Peter was home. He was out sick. He had hurt his hand. And it was his left hand, his trigger hand. So the only thing I found weird about that day is Peter got ready quick. Peter never got ready quick. He was upstairs and downstairs in no time. And he dropped me off for lunch. After lunch, we, of course, girls, we talked too much. And I was late for pick. So I'm calling him, saying, like, hopefully he could get the kids for me. But he never answered. So jumped in one of the many minivans. We picked up our kids. I actually brought a play date home. And when I came home from picking them up, I put them down. And I remember putting on Power Rangers for them. And I put the baby down in the car seat, and I ran upstairs to change. And when I went upstairs, to my surprise, there was all these letters on the bed. And Peter was such a great guy. He was a great husband, a great father, a great friend, everything. And silly me, I'm thinking, oh, look what he did for me again. He left me all these gift certificates. I mean, the baby was just a year old. I'm thinking, oh, for my nails and massage, and instead they were all goodbye letters. And at first I was like, what is this, And it was to my parents. It was to each one of my kids, and it was to my best friend Val and her husband. And I dropped. I started calling his phone, and of course he left his phone home. I was on his phone calling all his friends. I was on my cell phone, and I was on the house phone. And I just calling 911, but they already knew. And I didn't know what was going on and how to get to him. And it wasn't until I went to the door, and Monsignor Romano and Monsignor Casado came to my front door. And I knew that I couldn't have stopped it. It was too far gone. But at the time, I don't understand it. And how do you explain it to a 1-year-old, 4 and a 6-year-old? There's no explaining it, because I still don't understand it, and I still don't know why. So somehow or another, we came up with telling them that he died in a car crash. I thought at the time it was a good idea to say that, because it's easy enough to understand. But back then we didn't have like the internet so freely. I guess we did, but my kids were little. So it wasn't until about 6 or 8 years later that they started getting on the internet. And I didn't want them to see this through that. So I sat the boys down, and my mother was, why do you have to tell them? And I said, because it's time. And the only thing I could say to them was how he passed. And I explained that there was something wrong with Daddy's brain. And it was inside. And we can't see inside the way we see a broken arm or a broken leg. I said, if I saw it, I would have helped. I said, but we couldn't see it. So this is what happened. So we cried, and then we went to his favorite restaurant and celebrated his life. And then about 6 or so many years later, Jolie started like coming out asking some questions, and I said, oh boy, it's that time again. And she was about 15 years old, and I sat her down and I said, listen, I have to tell you something. You know, I'm sorry, but I just have to bring it to your attention how Daddy passed. And it actually killed me, because the kid cried, and she cried that I never saw her cry like this before. And I'm like, honey, I know. We all miss him. We love him. I wish you had more memories of him. But she cried because she said to me, Mommy, all these years, I thought it was my fault that Daddy died. She says, because I knew I was a baby, and I thought being a baby that I was crying at night all the time, and I was keeping him up, and he wasn't getting enough sleep. And I thought that's how he got into the car accident.
Wow.
So all these years, I think I'm protecting her. And in her head, she thought all those years that she was responsible for him. But that's that's a tough one. But these guys, I understand they're under pressure. I understand the job. I understand money. I understand relationships. It's just not worth it, because to this day, I'm still hurting. My kids are still hurting. There's still something missing. Nobody could replace a father. Nobody could replace anyone. Everybody is irreplaceable. And if it was money, I would have sold the house and lived in a box just to be with him, and my kids have their dad. I don't know what went on. No, I wasn't cheating on him. I had a 1-year-old that I was still nursing. There was no one there. It was just him and me.
If I could
Yes.
just give a background a little bit, because I worked with Peter. If there was anybody that you would least suspect, I'm talking about, like, when you come into roll call, you know what I'm saying? Like, for the civilians out there that are fans of the show that are listening, when you come into roll call, you gravitate to your little group of cops that you kind of sort of have a lot in common with. Some people are talking about the deck that they put up over here, and some people talking about Pete and Jock and a couple other guys. That was the group that I was part of, and we would break each other's chops, bust each other. Me and Pete would bust each other's balls. I mean, he had jokes for days about me. He would slice me up and dice me up, and I would never in a million years think to myself that he was unhappy in any way at all.
No, me neither. I
He was just the happiest guy I ever, like, always with a big, as soon as he saw me, this smile would come up.
Yep.
Because he knew he was going to get a chance to break my balls right now.
Dr. Wakschal, do you have any input to what we just heard?
Well, first, let me say, Mary Ann, I'm truly sorry for your loss. And that may seem strange so many years later to hear that comment, but in grief and bereavement, and especially suicide, time is compressed. A year is a day, 10 years is a week. It's like yesterday. Time is very compressed. And you use the key word that I hear all the time is understand. That word constantly pops up. This attempt or desire or need to understand, to make sense, and to get caught up in that world of trying to figure it out. And Mark said, what we also hear all the time is the last person I'd ever suspect of doing this, whether it's the personality was, always laughing, joking, or had everything together, the wife, the kids, the car, the pool, so we hear that as well. But when it comes to making sense, when it comes to trying to understand, the reality is you can't make sense of what doesn't make sense. That's the issue. You really can't make sense of what doesn't make sense. And as far as, you know, the least person you expect, that's why, you know, my philosophy is sometimes asking to reach out doesn't work as well as asking to reach in, because you look at the person and, you know, they look completely fine, but there may be something, you know, as you go through the process, that there's something you should reach in about. Maybe there is something, but in many cases there's nothing, you know, there's no indication at all. And Mary Ann, you also mentioned, you know, I could understand finances, I could understand relationships, that those things don't cause someone to take their lives. I've said before, if you look at every police officer who's been involved in investigations, financial relationships, if they all took their lives, we wouldn't have a police force. So those aren't the determining factors. They're not determining. They may be correlated, they may, you know, trigger something, but they don't cause it. And suicide is a solitary act. You know, it doesn't, at that point, the person is not capable of taking into consideration the aftermath, what's going to be. And if they do, it's usually a distorted perspective.
It's a shame, though. I know exactly what you're saying, but, you know, I started trying to get the word out and going to see cops, and because I don't want anybody to blame. It's not one thing. And, you know, a lot of times they blame the police department. I'm more of a cop's wife now than I was then. It's not the police department's fault. Unfortunately, they have this gun that, you know, but it's not the police department. It's themselves. You know, and you know, it breaks my heart about Peter, because we had our two boys, two perfect boys. I wanted a boy first. I got him. I wanted him to have a best friend. I got him. And then we wanted that girl. And really, we were elated to get the girl. We were so happy to have our three healthy, beautiful children. It went as we planned, except that this wasn't the plan. You know, we had a plan, and he left me holding the bag. And, you know, it's not fair to do that to anybody either, because, you know, you guys are good cops, bad cops. Well, I'm good parent, bad parent. And I feel like I'm a split personality half the time. You know how it is to punish your kid. That's great, but you always have your partner to soften it. Yeah, well, I didn't have that. I would punish my kid at night, and I'd go to sleep and I'd cry. You know, it's just not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair to themselves either, because that's not fair that they don't think enough of themselves. They're worth so much, and it's sad that they don't.
It's not so much that they don't, it's that they can't.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell people, I'll say, do me a favor. When I count to 3, I need you to run up the wall, run across the ceiling, and come back down. 1, 2, 3. Did you do it? No. Why not? You can't.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the person who's at that point where they just can't consider options. Their perspective of life is very skewed. They just can't do it. But I think you're 100% right when it comes to blaming the department. And that's the knee-jerk reaction, is it's the job. In fact, in Japan, it's called, my Japanese isn't great. In fact, it doesn't exist. Karo Chisatsu. You got to ask Jimmy Shanahan how to present it, but how to pronounce it. But it's actually where they recognize stress of the job contributing. But the goal here should always be, that's not what's causing it. That's not what's causing this.
You know, Doc, we've had you on the show before, and we've spoken about this before, and we've all had friends, coworkers that committed suicide in our career. And what would you recommend? I mean, I know I was a boss, and I know some of the signs, but what would you give us as a professional, like indications? And I know, you know, heavy drinking, you know, people doing 4 to 4s, you know, 5 times a week, you know, that type of thing. But what other things, the subtle things that people may not notice?
And again, it's good that you distinguish between subtle and obvious. You know, the obvious is the person who is giving away possessions. You know, here, I don't need this anymore. You take it. Well, why don't you need it? I don't need it. You know, all my problems will be solved soon. I have a plan. You know, these are all obvious things that you hear people say, but the less obvious, one of the big ones is called Anadonia. It's a lack of getting pleasure in things that used to give you pleasure. So come on, you want to go play darts? Nah, I don't feel like it. That little bit of nah, I don't feel like it is sometimes an indicator. Again, when we look at indicators, we always look at intensity, duration, and frequency. Everybody shows indicators, everybody at some point in their life. The question arises when they hit critical mass. When we look at the intensity of it, the duration and the frequency, how often. But yeah, anadonia is a big one. You know, maybe a worsening of medical conditions. That's something people don't pay attention to. Many medical conditions have a stress basis. All of a sudden, their sugar is going up. They're developing some eczema. You know, so you start to get some indications from medical conditions, asthma, like I said, diabetes. Those are some more subtle ones. You know, there's a whole host of them. There's a host of them.
Not to interrupt the show, but Jolie McGinnis is on the chat, and she said you still did an amazing job on your own.
I love that kid. That's my daughter.
You know, we have a bunch of people in our live chat who I'd just like to call out to. A couple of them: Melody McAtee, Sandra Rivera, MC's Audio, Oscar Ferrafino, a loyal fan, Jolie McGinnis, of course, Christopher Strom, Sam DeFiglia. Hey, Sammy, how you doing? Peter Pranzo, the great Lieutenant Peter Pranzo, retired. Bill Ryan, TJ, there's another relative. Sandra H., Jake McGuire, Elizabeth Lewandowski, and who else? Ania Banania Strell. That one's a hard one to say. And Duty Ron, thank you so much for all your help. Thank you for the $20 super chat.
Peter
Joan Guerrero.
Don't forget
locator, and I know who that is. That's Irma Rivera, the locator. Very great to have you here. Emilia Schiame Dodato. Emmy, okay. Ali, and of course the great Rachella Pranzo. Without her, we would have no Peter Pranzo, I'm sure. Ali, we got again. I think I pretty much covered everyone.
Sergeant Peter Lavin. Don't forget about Sergeant Peter Lavin and Christian Chappelle. I carpooled with Mayo to the academy in 1992.
Oh, Tracy Jones, Scotty Wagner just showed up. So I'm sure that Maryann, you got a lot of fans in the live chat, and that's a great thing that people are here to support you.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, just we have to do a quick commercial break, and I think Mark's going to do it first. I hate to do it during this seriousness, but we have to pay for this.
Okay, so we're talking about Silk City hot sauce right now. The other day, I got all the bottles. The guy was nice enough to send them to me, and I dipped into Bill's stash right now. I'm sorry, Bill.
It's all right.
The other day I had, I'm on a diet right now. I've lost 14 pounds, and what I do is I throw a little bit of Silk City hot sauce on my bland food, and it sparks it up. It's made with small batches, pure ingredients, locally grown peppers. And that is the foundation of every bottle of Silk City hot sauce. And they have so many flavors from mild to wild. And they have really cool art on every single bottle. Go to silkcityhotsauce.com. Trust me when I tell you, you'll love it. It's all good ingredients. You won't feel you won't have agita the next day. Put in OTC, and you'll get a 15% discount. Enter that into your coupon code there. SilkCityHotSauce.com.
If you got anyone's looking to move down south to relocate to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Carol Waters of the Beach Realty Group has been buying and selling property in the Myrtle Beach area for 11 years now. Carol and her husband, Rob Mahan, retired FDNY firefighter and also was a rollover from the NYPD. They work as a team. Carol has been a multi-million-dollar producer for the past 10 years. They have great knowledge of all aspects of the real estate industry. And Carol's well known around the Irish community in New York. She worked in Fitzpatrick's Manhattan Hotel for over 20 years behind the stick. Originally born in the Bronx and brought up in County Mayo, Ireland. Contact Carol Waters for all your real estate needs in the Myrtle Beach area. And you can see that's Carol Waters sells MB@gmail.com, 914-261-6681. And that concludes our commercial.
Commercial break. We're back from commercial, folks.
Just to follow up, a couple of other indicators. One is misuse of alcohol or any substance, just a change in amount. That's one of them. Expression of regrets. When you hear a lot of "I wish I would have done this," "I wish I would have done that," and in law enforcement in particular, reckless behavior. Handling every call as a 1013. Not wearing a vest, playing with guns. Anything reckless is also one of the indicators. And withdrawal, isolation, just removing yourself. But again, go ahead.
Doc, for all listeners, and we have a lot of cops, of course, and Mark and I know, as well as almost anyone that's serious about being a cop or has been a cop for 20 years, 25 years, 27 years, 30 years, we all have PTSD. There is no doubt that we all have PTSD. So just accept it and just, and not embrace it. But if it overcomes you, then you have to know how and when to go for help. But yeah, we all have to face that. And I had asked you on another show, I said, Doc, is it okay to go out drinking? And I expected you to say, oh, no. And you were like, no, of course it is. As long as you're not doing it every damn night. So I appreciate that, Doc.
No, PTSD definitely has a correlation with suicide. Again, it's not causal. There are many people with PTSD that don't take their lives. That it's not causal. We see that all the time. And just like depression, same thing. People are under this impression that, oh, they're depressed. That's why they did it. Depressed people, actually, it's not considered a major factor in suicide. That's counterintuitive. But if you look at the fact that right now there are at least 20 to 30, depending which study you read, 20 to 30 million people in the United States diagnosed with depression, treated for depression. Suicide rate is about 47,000. If depressed people took their lives strictly because of depression, that number would be much higher. It's more a sense of hopelessness that things will never get better, and helplessness. There's nothing anyone or myself could ever do to change it, as well as chronic pain, emotional or physical. That's pretty much your lethal equation.
Well,
Doc, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
We're talking like 25 years ago, right, Maryann?
Peter will be gone 19 years.
Okay. Okay. Really? Oh, that's it. Okay. So 19. But so I don't. If I recall correctly, back then I was going to say the medication, but all these pills that people take,
what?
Didn't really exist.
He got hurt on the job when he was in narcotics. He was, I guess, maybe he went in for a warrant and he broke his hand, and he was home from that. And again, he wasn't on heavy medication, but he did break his hand. And I know that he was upset because he went to the board to try and get out on 3/4, and they didn't deny him. They only deferred him for 6 months. So, I said to him, well, that's good. You didn't get denied. If you were denied, you'd be done. I said, you were deferred. They're hoping that you'll feel better, And after that, he didn't stick around for that next 6 months. But he wasn't on medication.
Loss also plays a tremendous role in suicide.
My point was that back then, like, let's say, for example, if you were feeling a certain way, you could go and they would put you on medication now. And I don't recall those type of medications being available to people back then. So, like, the antidepressants that people are on right now.
After Peter passed, I was on them. Honestly, I had to go on to Zoloft because I was in a way. I mean, I had a 1-year-old, a 4 and a 6-year-old. I was on that antidepressant medication. You betcha.
Yeah, well, you had every reason to be, and the fact that you got through this is amazing.
You know, the
I
the, the
got
method,
through it with the help from my family, and really good friends. Really.
That's great.
the troubling thing with all of this is that, we all have two different sides of us. We have the sides that we show everybody
Mhm.
when we go out every day, and then we have the thoughts that we have when we're alone. And that's the problem, is because that's hidden.
But Mark, he couldn't tell me.
I don't know.
I live with him. I would hope that he could tell me. We told each other everything else. I wish that he could have said something. I don't know to this day, and I never will. Never, until I'm up there with him. And the first thing I'm going to do is punch him. Yeah. But, and the other thing I really want to say is, when Peter died, and again, I'm not blaming the police department, because how he died, he's a hero in his own way, and he's a hero to me and always will be. He couldn't handle things. I get it, but the way he passed doesn't lessen. He still passed, and he's still again. But, the police department was just able to do just so much. Their hands are tied. I wasn't able to get health insurance for the rest of my life. I wasn't able to get, the salary the rest of my life. I was, you're limited. And I get that. But what I can say is employee relations, Tracy, you're there. Employee relations turned me to a organization that is unbelievable, and it's called the NYPD Anchor Club, if you haven't heard of it. And it's a wonderful organization that they help out the line of duty, but they help out the non-line of duty. And because of them, I'm actually the widow liaison for their organization now. But it's such a wonderful group of men, and we take kids, the families, we take them to Coney Island, we take them to a Mets game, they do NYPD FD hockey, a Christmas party, the kids go home with toys. But they kept my husband's spirit alive when, unfortunately, I wasn't invited to all the other things, but they kept me included. And I swear, it meant so much to me. And they really, really are a wonderful organization. And I thank them. And that was for you guys. The Anchor Club was awesome to me. For the police. Absolutely.
It's a great thing. You had mentioned before, and I think I find it interesting, is that you don't blame the police department, but we who have experienced seeing a lot of suicide. I was in homicide, so I went to every damn suicide there was in Manhattan North, and there was a lot of them. And even on the police department, we also went to member of the service suicides, and the police department didn't do enough back then. I think they're doing much more now. They're doing much more now than they ever did. And I mean, Dr. Wakschal is one of the pioneers in this, and he could talk about suicide awareness and intervention programs for law enforcement. He's doing all kinds of things for the police department. That's one of the reasons we have him on the show so often.
You know what? And that's, unfortunately in 2019, it was rampant and very sad. And I remember I would text, Deputy Commissioner Ganley almost, it felt like every day, not another. And I finally had a meeting with him, and I said, I have to do something. I said, because maybe if people hear how it affected myself and my children, maybe they would think twice. I don't know, just something. I felt, and he welcomed me, and I was able to do some speaking, and yep, there they are. And, he let me, and I totally support NYPD. No, I don't blame them, not one bit. Did they do a lot for me back then? No, and they know it. But they are, unfortunately, hey, listen, we live and learn. And, unfortunately, it took years to stop not talking about it. You know what? It's myself also. Back then, like when I would go to the Anchor Club and meet other widows, they would ask how my husband passed, and all I would say was he was sick. I never said it, and I'm sure there's widows that are probably surprised to hear now because I just never spoke out and said it. I'm sorry in a way, but there's nothing I could do about it. I'm sorry that back then I didn't speak about it and try to get myself out there. But again, I had 3 little ones. I had to take care of them, and which, proudly I did. But now it's time. It's time that people hear the other side. And before you think about something like that, think about, if you got nothing else, think about your pet. Somebody relies on you. You're not out there by yourself. Somebody is going to be heartbroken, and if you need to talk, I'll listen. Honestly, no life should ever be taken that way. It's sad. It's heartbreaking.
Mary Ann, it's a great thing that you're giving back, and no one else could give back except someone who's actually experienced what you've gone through.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't go to school for this. I only lived it. So yeah, sometimes it's good to hear what somebody else went through. So it makes you stop and think, and you guys have, the police department has the phrase, if you see something, say something. It applies to people also. If you see somebody's not themselves, say something, or just ask them how you're feeling today. You know why? Because, and I'm going to tell you, the day, I think the day before my husband passed, he took his dress uniform to the precinct. He was out sick. Somebody saw him, and instead of saying, and again, I'm not blaming anybody, but that was weird. The guy's out sick and he brought his dress uniform to the precinct. I wish somebody would have said, "Oh, Pete, that's weird. Why are you bringing it? You okay?" And listen, again, it happened, but for people's awareness, if you see somebody's off, ask.
Mary Ann, some of the barriers to that were that when someone, and we've discussed this before, when someone would report that a cop had a problem, especially possibly a mental problem, the first thing they're going to do is take his guns away.
Yeah.
And put him on limited duty. And that is one of the big barriers to reporting something like that. And Doc, you want to maybe touch upon that?
In terms of weapons, or?
Well, in terms of how maybe the police department's changed in being so.
It's changed tremendously. My experience with the Employee Assistance Unit, putting peer support trained by the Employee Assistance Unit, putting them in precincts, and cops. I was just speaking to someone the other day, and I don't have the exact statistics, but my understanding is that they've had literally thousands of phone calls, thousands of approaches, of contacts. The peer-based, the precinct-based peer supporters, because I'm preaching to the choir, but cops are interesting. You would wonder, why would a cop approach somebody in the precinct? Because in the precinct, they know what the deal is. There's nothing hidden. There's no, I wonder this, I wonder that. It's what you see is what you get within the precinct. So they're doing an amazing job. I think that's really a big key. That's what I'm finding. And
so that's a relatively new program, right?
Yes, yeah. Yes. And again, the attempt to destigmatize the word suicide, it's being used, which is what we need. We need to hear the word, and I mean, Mary Ann, even you talk about your husband bringing his dress uniform. Typically there's 3 responses. The first is people are just too preoccupied, too self-absorbed.
Yes.
And they don't notice it. They just don't notice it.
Yes.
Then you get people, which is a lot more common in the police department, is rejection. I know him. He would never do that. So I'm wrong in even thinking he would think that, or she would think that. You just reject that possibility. The third, which thankfully we see a lot less of, is I'm picking up something, but you know what? If I'm picking it up, someone else will too. I'm not getting involved. Luckily, that one is much less. But the most common is this rejection. There's no way he or she would ever think that. You know, they're always laughing, they're always happy. I'm going to let it go. But, you know, I always say cops have what we civilians don't have, which is this incredible sixth sense. They have a spider sense that they don't need the words. They don't need the actions. They could just sense it. They could sense it. And, you know, that's what I try to focus on in my trainings is keying into that, reaching in based on your sixth sense, based on that spider sense.
Lives matter.
Hey, tell us about your kids now. What are you doing?
They're great. They are great. So TJ's awesome. TJ looks exactly like his father, built like him, everything. He actually has his dad's tattoo, his dad's shield tattooed to his calf. Now, remember Peter had those big, awesome tree trunk calves?
Yeah. Pete was, he looked like a power lifter.
Yeah, he did. So TJ's getting them also. And he's got his dad's tattoo there. He's doing great. He really is. He looks like his dad a lot. Johnny, I think, is a mix between Peter and I. But he's awesome. He's in the Carpenters Union. He's doing great. He's got a picture of a tattoo of Peter's favorite cartoon character was the Tasmanian Devil. So he's got a tattoo of the Tasmanian Devil with the police hat on, which is pretty awesome. And Jolie's just Jolie. She's a great kid. She's in college, her second year. Awesome. She looks like her father too. I don't understand. I gained all the weight. I went through all the trouble, and they don't really look like me. Not at all. But that's okay. That's really fun. Yeah.
That's great.
And how have they dealt with it over the years?
You know, I have to tell you, they were little, and you know, it was a very dark time when he passed. And you know, I got to be honest with you, I don't think that I grieved properly enough because I was too busy trying to make them happy and feel safe and okay. Like I ignored myself. So growing up, you know, they were great. I mean, at times, yeah, it hit TJ. I think it hit him a lot. And it's still, you know, listen, I had to talk guy things to boys. It was awkward for them. It was awkward for me. You know, Jolie at her sweet 16, I walked her in. Actually, Peter's brother walked her in, but I danced with her. You know, listen, my kids are happy. Definitely, it hurts them tremendously that they never had a father, that they never, you know, when I think about Jolie, that I'm going to walk her down the aisle, it irks me to no end. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for me. It breaks my heart for her. Pisses me off, something fierce. But I'm not going to take away, you know, she's happy. I'm somehow or another, they manage to be happy and good kids. They are.
That's great.
Hey, you were a teacher, weren't you?
No, I'm a parent coordinator.
Okay.
You know, we talked about 2019 was the most horrendous year for the police department in regards to there was 10 cop suicides. And I think that's what sparked the police department.
Yes.
That's what gave them a kick in the ass to really start doing something about it. But just this very recently, we just had this deputy inspector from Queens take his life.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm no expert, but looking at his face just in this picture, to me, I see a lot of pain just in his face, you know, and of course I know what happened. So it's easy for me to say that, but he looks like he has something going on, and, you know, God bless his family, and may he rest in peace. But it's suicide is one too many.
I actually started going to the funerals, the wakes, and introducing myself to the family, and giving them my card and saying, you know, you probably don't even hear what I'm saying right now, but in a few weeks, if ever you want to speak, I'm here. I'll listen. I've been through it. And that last funeral that I went to, a gentleman came down the steps and he said, because of you is why I'm here tonight. And I looked at him. I was like, oh, I didn't know what I did wrong. He goes, you came to my son's funeral last year, and I'll never forget that. I don't remember what you said. He said, but I remember that you've been through this and you came. He said, and it meant so much to me. And I just, you know, with it going on, and still, unfortunately, I hope it doesn't go on anymore. But with it going on, it's a very lonely feeling. And back then, you said it, back then, you know, there was no help. And that's why I just want these people, if they want to talk, I'll listen because I've lived it.
Yeah. Well, it was always considered, you know,
Taboo.
the police department's a macho job and, you know, guys can handle their own stuff. And so it was, and to come forward and say you had a problem was a tough thing to admit. But I think those barriers are starting to come down. And with people like Dr. Wakschal and some of the line organizations, it's really helped reduce the fear of coming forward and saying that you may have a problem.
It's hard to ask for help, but it's harder to go to a family's door and say what happened.
Yeah. But the constant is that, and Doc touched on it before, is that we live with a firearm 24/7, 365, you know. So the means of taking your life is with you at all times. And, you know, I would say, I don't know the statistics on it, but I would say most cops that take their own life do use a firearm, you know, and so that does have a correlation to the high rate of police suicide.
It is immediate access to lethal means.
Yeah.
You know, that's a definite factor that plays into it. But, you know, I think that Mary Ann, just to say, is so inspirational because, look, if what you've gone through, if you can get out of bed every day, brush your teeth, and get back into bed, you'd be doing okay, you know. But to be able to do what a lot of people can't, because what you're doing is you're not reducing your husband's presence to his absence. No. You're not focusing on, well, he's just not here. You're really, you know, living a legacy of his, and that's, you know, really wonderful. It really is.
I wish I could have done it years back, but like I said, I was busy taking care of his 3 children.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, whatever the growth is, you're here now.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and the fact that you're reaching out and you're helping other people and letting them understand, you could save them a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if somebody would have come talk to you.
I wish. I welcome it. I would listen. I don't care if I know you or not. I would listen because your life is so worth it. It really is. Nobody should have to go through this. Nobody should ever have to listen. Family, children, no one. You know, like I said, there were nights I cried myself to sleep because I punished my kid. I had nobody to bounce off of. You know, my mom, my family, they're wonderful. My friends are great. But, you know, you got married and you were supposed to be in it together. You know, my friends go home. My mom goes home. She stayed over for a while in the beginning. But, you know, it still goes on. My kids are still with me.
You know, there's a couple of other line organizations, Duty Ron, who, you know, he just reminded me of Behind the Badge, another outstanding organization that cops can go to. And these organizations are available. And, you know, you also have Dr. Wakschal, who here is one of the best suicide prevention experts that we know of. And he's a real friend of the NYPD. So if anyone out there does need help with anyone on this job or their family, just think of Dr. Stephen Wakschal. He's in Staten Island. Doc, you want to say your telephone number over the air?
Sure. My cell is 24/7, and people say, "Wow, you're really going to give your cell?" I do. When it comes to a police officer in need, call me. It's 718-938-4967. And our trainings, they do not cost a dime, and we refuse to take any donations or contributions. It's strictly, we do it because it's a way to give back to police officers, and it's a 5-hour training. And again, it focuses on the notion of sometimes asking to reach out doesn't work as well as reaching in. And we train partners to reach in to their partner, what to look for, how to reach in. And we go over some of the risk, all the risk factors, why somebody might be at risk. So you're looking at the whole person. You're not just saying, well, they seem a little down today. No, let's look at the whole person. And that's what we focus on. And those are available. The training is available free of charge, anywhere, anytime, any borough, Nassau, Suffolk, anywhere.
You're a real saintly guy, Doc, and you're Jewish, so I won't try to baptize you.
But my wife isn't. My wife is Irish Catholic. So
I have an opposite. I'm Irish Catholic, and my wife is Jewish. So there must be something to the attraction there. Retired Sergeant Melinda, thank you so much for that $99.99 super chat. MC's Audio, thank you so much for $199. I know that's all you can afford. Thank you so much. It's all appreciated. And all the people in our live chat. I think tonight is a really excellent show. I'm getting a little choked up here and there myself. And this is a topic that really needs to be covered.
Well, especially now with where everybody's dealing with, just the way law enforcement is portrayed, and these poor guys that are out there doing their job right now, and what they have to deal with. It's out there. It's out there, and if you got to reach out to somebody, you got to reach with what Dr. Wakschal said. What do you reach in, right?
Reach in. Again, I'm not saying reaching out, asking to reach out is useless. It saves lives, but we're just finding that reaching in, taking the initiative is more effective. It's more effective.
It's funny, Doc. There's people on this job that are selfless, and I spent some time, and Mark spent some time with Eddie Mullins.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy is a tireless worker. I mean, if someone comes to him and he's been working a 14-hour day, he'll spend 3 hours with them to try to turn their life around. And there's people like that on this job.
You know who is a huge supporter is Paul DiGiacomo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Huge supporter. Could have him on speed dial, and anything I need, it's done. When it's just a wonderful, wonderful person.
Yeah, there's some really good people that are there to help, and they're not necessarily going to go official. There's people you can reach out to that they're not going to go official on the job. There's line organizations that you can go to, and you won't have to, be de-gunned, as we used to call it. Rubber gunned, right? I used to say it, rubber gunned.
The rubber gun squad.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. It's so tough because it's. When you were telling your story in the beginning of the show, you were mentioning about how you had come home and you had no idea. You had no idea. It wasn't until you went upstairs and you saw all the stuff that was laying out. So that's the scary part about it. It's because sometimes you might not, because something that you could handle, you're not really thinking about like your other person. How could you not handle it? We're going to make it. We're going to be fine. But you don't know what's going on in their head.
No, I guess I didn't.
Well, it's that's the problem. That's the problem. It's you just don't know. You don't know what the other person's really thinking when they're by themselves. And the reason why I say that is because it's like you shouldn't blame. I know you had a lot of thoughts, if I would have done this, but I don't think you could have known.
I know that. I I know. I'll find out one day. There's always a lot of guilt and always will be. But hey, listen, when he was around, we were happy. And I just have to remember that. I'm going to just
But Maryann, I still think when you see him in the afterlife, you should punch him in the face.
100%. First thing.
And you know, Maryann, guilt is one of my favorite topics.
I'm Italian. That's why I'm doing it. I want to guilt these people. Listen to my story. Don't do this to anybody. Don't live what I'm living.
But when it comes to personal intent, people forget intent has two components, and our guilt has two components, and our tendency is to forget the second component. It's just to focus on the first, which is that feeling. I'm guilty. I feel guilty. But guilt has a second component, and that second component is intent. You can't have guilt without intent to cause pain and suffering. If your intention is not to cause pain and suffering, then morally, religiously, every which way, you are not guilty. Guilt is not the issue. But people latch on to guilt because it tends to keep some of the sadness away. But you're not guilty. Guilt, your intention was not ever and never will be to cause pain and suffering. So guilt is not the issue. Don't feel guilty.
Thank you.
Yeah, he just absolved you. It was almost like a priest. I thought he was going to do that, and he had that thing with they throw the holy
I feel
water.
better too. I feel absolved.
StreamYard, he can do that.
I'm going to sleep good tonight, finally.
That's right. Dr. Stephen Wakschal absolved you of all of your sins. That's amazing. A Jewish doctor just absolved an Italian Catholic woman of all her sins. It's important to laugh too, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to be positive.
Absolutely.
You know, I know I come out and I give a story, and it's a tearjerker of a story. My life has been changed ever since, but I am a positive person, and I try to find the good in everything and the brighter side of everything, because I don't want to live in that dark hole anymore that I was many years ago. And like I said, he's my hero in a different way, and he was a great guy. However way he died, I think he was a great person.
I will second that.
Thank you.
Maryann, do you find this speaking at these line organizations, do you find it therapeutic for you?
I do. I absolutely do. Yeah, I do, because for so many years, like I told you, all I would say is, oh, he was sick. And I never said how he actually passed. And, you know, I get broken up, absolutely. But I just feel like, you know what, maybe some good could come of me speaking. Maybe somebody will hear it and rethink and say, oh, wow, you know, think about my daughter, you know, think about my kids, you know, think about something other than that moment. With your life is worth so much more. That's right. That was such a great picture.
Yeah.
My kids are probably going, oh my God, Ma, really?
We got to relive.
You know, she asked me, where the hell did you get those pictures from? I said, Facebook. What do you think I got them from? You think you sent me copies? No.
When did I do that? I'm going, oh my God.
That's right.
You know,
it's tremendous.
A few months ago, I was talking to a very dear friend, a new friend, and I met him when I spoke at the cops organization. I was asked to go there and speak, and I went and I spoke. And I've heard of him before, and but I never met him. And he introduced himself to me, and we've been very good friends. And his wife knows all about me, and she goes, "Oh, your girlfriend Maryann," and I can't wait to meet her. But Desi Stokes, I said that I was going to say his name tonight, and he's the one that actually told me that I should reach out to you guys. He says, "You know what, man? I listened to this great podcast. You maybe you should." So I had listened to it, and then I said, "You know," he goes, "You should definitely call." And Bill, you got right back to me. It was awesome.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Even as lovable as Mark and I both are, we do get some hate mail.
Ah,
It's mostly directed to Bill.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. Yeah. we get some people saying, "Oh, you guys suck. You know, you're this, you're that." You know, but you know, I also while it's a little we have a little levity here. I wanted to push this. This is for Mark, and this Sunday night, Mark if you guys don't know, Mark is a great comic. He's been doing stand-up comedy for like 25 years. And he's recording an album at East Village Comedy Club on Sunday night. And there's 2 shows, one at 7 and one at 9:30. There's tickets available. Let Mark tell you where you can get the tickets, but I will vouch for him. I've actually done comedy shows with him. I'm a stand-up comic too, not of Mark's level, but he's been doing it way longer than me. You give me 25 years, I'll kick his ass, but I don't know if I have 25 years to do comedy, you know? But let Mark tell you where you can find the tickets.
Yeah, just go to newyorkcomedyclub.com, NEWYORK, newyorkcomedyclub.com. And it's going to be on Sirius XM. 800-Pound Gorilla is the production company, and you'll be able to hear it while you're driving. If you have Spotify, if you have iTunes, all that kind of stuff. But I'd love to have you at the live recording, and it's this Sunday. 2 shows, 7 p.m., 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. And if you go online to newyorkcomedyclub.com and you put in the coupon code MARK, the tickets are $10. So you can't
It
beat
better be worth it, Mark, because I bought 2 tickets.
Mark,
Yeah, you got to.
You know, another thing is a guest on our show, a retired Captain Joe Lisi, who is a great actor. He's probably the most successful former NYPD cop as an actor. He's been in over 100 television shows and movies. If you saw a picture of him, you said, "Oh, I know that guy." Anyway, he owns a restaurant in Midtown called Bardo. And he said, "How would you guys like to do a police off the cuff night at my restaurant?" I said, "We'd love to." So it's going to be like a meet and greet on Tuesday, May 18th, starting at 7 o'clock. And if you want to come there, bring your babies. Mark and I will shake hands, kiss babies. We'll take pictures with you. We'll do all of that shit. But it should be fun. I even asked my son if he would come and take some professional photos of us. But it's sort of fun. And we got a lot of unbelievable guests coming on in the future. If I could tell you who just called me yesterday, you wouldn't believe it. I was like, I'm a huge fan of this guy. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but we're getting calls if people want to come on the show, which makes us feel good. We've been doing this show.
Did they ever make a movie about the guy you're talking about?
Yes, they did make a movie about the guy that called us up.
Was it a very popular movie?
It was extremely popular. What, are you trying to get me to say who it is?
No, I'm trying to give clues.
Yeah, giving clues to the audience. Oh, yeah. Personal messages will tell you who it is, but I don't want until he confirms. I don't want to out the guy, but we're getting a lot of calls from great guests, people that are on the job. Sometimes they like to hear us talk about the problems and maybe even beat up the job a little bit every once in a while. Even though I loved being a cop, so did Mark. And but you know, it's like a dysfunctional family. Every once in a while, you have to slap somebody around in your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
retired Sergeant Belinda said, "Proud of you, Mark. Also, you did well holding down the fort while Bill was gone." So at least one person did.
I was on vacation for 1 week. I thought the world was going to fall apart, but I was in
I told you 1,000 times.
It was unbelievable. You know,
What do we do? How do you do this? How do you do that?
It's not so easy. It's like my wife pays all the bills. My God, if anything happened to her, I would have no idea how to pay the bills. You know, none. She does it all electronically. You know, I don't know. I just would have no idea. Anyone have any closing? We're at an hour and 5 minutes. Anyone have any closing thoughts? Doc, let me give you the floor first, since you're the expert, and we'll close with Mary Ann, and if Mark has anything to say. Dr. Wakschal is a suicide prevention expert, And let me, Doc. I've said enough. Ken, you have the floor.
Well, yeah, just thank me for having. Just thank you for having me on, and the opportunity just to keep talking about suicide and prevention and awareness. And again, Mary Ann is inspirational. She has what we call testimony. Mary Ann being able to speak from the heart about what she's experienced is very different than someone going to Dr. Google, finding an article and just reading it or cutting and pasting it and getting it out there. So it's really powerful. And again, always use your spider sense. Always, if you have any concern about somebody, just ask. Worst that could happen is they say, "What, are you crazy?" But just by asking, saves a life sometimes. Just asking. And again, our trainings are anywhere. We'll go anywhere. Myself and my co-trainer, Laura Giacomoni. Our training is under the auspices of Northwell Health and their institutional review board to make sure it stays kosher and follows guidelines.
Hey, Doc, did you have to bring the Jewish stuff into it?
I had no choice.
So far, he's posed as a priest and blessing Mary Ann. Now he's
the goal is to have our training become evidence-based, have research backing behind it. So again, the trainings are free. We'll go anywhere within reasonable amount. Nassau, Suffolk, any 5 boroughs, and there's absolutely no charge for it at all. And you could register at www.conquersuicide.org. That's the website.
Mary Ann, you have any final thoughts?
You know what? If anybody's out there and God forbid you're in that deep, dark spot, just think about myself and my family and what we've been through, because nobody should go through that. I know my family, it's the immediate family, but it extended to my friends. My mother and father should never watch their daughter go through something like that. Remember, there's somebody's going to miss you. You're so well worth being in this world. We need good people. We need that. If anybody ever needs to talk and you're in that dark spot, I will listen to you. I just don't ever want you to take your life and ruin your family. My family was ruined for a little bit of time, but I pulled it together, and with the help of a lot, we're all good. We're in a good spot now, and I just want everybody to know you're so worth the life that you're living.
Thank you,
Mary Ann. I'm sorry I didn't reach out to you earlier.
You shocked me.
I just didn't feel. You know what? And this is a message to everybody out there. If you have anybody that you were close to, or that you knew, or you were friendly with, extended friend, it's okay to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. Like I don't know how many people reached out to you before. I'm happy that you came out tonight, but I'm here for you now.
Thank you.
And you always have a platform here with us.
And
if you want to be part of this traveling circus, you got the golden ticket.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you reminded me that you worked with Peter, because people don't know if they should say, "Oh, I knew your husband," or not. They don't want to upset you, but I treasure hearing when somebody worked with my husband, because I love the stories. I treasure the stories because that's all I have are memories and stories, and that's just awesome. Yeah, my daughter actually worked at the 6-2 precinct 2 summers ago. And there was a few guys that was still there that knew my husband. And she came home and she was like a little weird. And I said, no, embrace it. Let them tell you stories. It's going to be awesome. And when she went back to work the next day, she felt so much better. And, we love to hear stories about him. And it's always good. Thank you.
That's fantastic.
You're always welcome here.
Thank you.
Things you're working on, or if you want to get a word out, this is, your family here now.
I'll be back.
All right.
If there's any other Mary Ann Maginnises out there that has a story to tell, or any great police stories or related to police stories, you can reach out to us on the Police Off the Cuff site. And unfortunately, I do all the booking. And it's funny, Duty Ron mentioned in the chat, he goes, Bill, he says, guest call you. He goes, I got to reach out to everybody. People are calling you. But meanwhile, Duty Ron has 32,000 subscribers. We have 3,200. So he's doing very well. So thank you.
Well, he hooked us up, man. He's a great guy. We're all doing our own thing here. But one thing we all have in common is that we're trying to do the betterment for the job, for the people that serve.
100%.
So I want to thank you on behalf of Police Off the Cuff After Hours, Dr. Stephen Wakschal.
Thank you.
Maryann DeLuco Maginnis.
Yes.
Your kids.
I always hated those hyphenated names. I was like, get rid of the hyphen.
No, you got the name off of Facebook. So back when I joined years ago, I had to reach out with my high school friends. They didn't know me as Maginnis.
Yeah. There's a lot of people like that. Yep. There's a lot of that.
And I have to keep the Italian going because that Maginnis.
Oh, yeah. Forget it. People are not going to know that you can cook, right?
That's right. And I can cook. My husband used to say, we should leave the S off and we'll be McGinney.
This is the first on the show, though. Dr. Wakschal turned into a priest and a rabbi all in one show. Unbelievable, right? On behalf of Mark DeMeo and Bill Cannon, Dr. Stephen Wakschal, Mary Ann Deluco Maginnis, we say goodnight from Police Off the Cuff. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and thank all you folks who gave us those super chats. It was well appreciated. Good night, everyone.
Coming on, guys.
Good
night.
Mark, I'll talk to you.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Okay. Bye.